Hey guys, welcome back to Dyer Armory. So today we're here wrapping up our plate carrier selection video. It's gonna be an awesome day. We're gonna shoot some plates. We're gonna test out some movements in some of these carriers. So if you haven't watched our previous videos, go back. We talked about plates, we talked about carriers, we talked about setup a little bit, and today we're gonna run through some basic movements and we're gonna shoot some plates. So I've got Sean back from Exoteric Group. Why don't you maybe walk us through some things that people might want to keep in mind when putting on their carrier for the first time?
So for me, and for everybody professional-wise using a plate carrier or not, and you're just using this for protection, what we're trying to focus on is making sure that our plates are covering our upper thoracic cavity. What that upper thoracic cavity holds is 2 lungs, a spinal column, and a heart. So my plate isn't sagging down here. You can see I've got a decent amount of stomach exposed. I'm not worried about taking around here, right? Yeah. I can survive that. Taking around up here, that's kind of where my
different story.
Exactly, right? So as far as the placement of my plates go, again, it's the upper thoracic for the front and the back. How I size my carrier, I want it to be snug, I guess is a good word to say. I don't want it to be too tight where it restricts my breathing and restricts a little bit of mobility, but I also don't want it to be too loose. So when I'm moving around, the carrier's moving around as well. If the carrier moves, I want it to move with me. I don't want it to move separate of me, if that makes sense. So as far as my front plate bag goes, what I'm looking for is I'm putting the top of my front plate in line with the top of my sternum. Angle of Louis is, I guess, a technical term for that.
Yeah, you can feel the little notch right where it is, and you can almost feel right where the top of my plate hits is right up there.
Yep, and my back plate is similar spot. It's not sagging. I see a lot of guys set the plate carriers up incorrectly where the front plate bag is sitting in the right spot, but the rear plate bag is just sagging way too low. Sitting down in a vehicle and riding for an extended period of time with that low plate is going to create some lumbar issues, and it doesn't feel very good. And as far as cummerbund setup again goes, tension-wise, you know, I don't want the plate carrier to move around. So when you get your plate carrier set up, front plate bag, rear plate bag set correctly, and we're setting the tension on that cummerbund. Some things that you can do, just simple exercises, get your plate carrier on. You have your driveway, sprint up and down your driveway. Is the plate carrier moving around on you, or is it moving with you? Some other things you can do is just simple, you know, jumping up and down. Is the plate carrier moving with me? Is it moving separate of me? If it's moving too much, okay, cool, let's go ahead and tighten things down.
And one tip to do when you are doing that for the first time, you put it on, just take a deep breath whenever you tighten that cummerbund down. And then exhale, and that should give you a pretty decent fitting. And it's something that kind of keeps being a theme that we keep joking about on and off camera, is that plate carrier setup. It really should be simple. As gun guys, we like to get new things and deck it out completely. Plate carriers is not really one of those things. It's a tool, it's something that you should use, and it's something that if you do too much with it can actually become a burden and not benefit you in any way.
Also understand that your plate carrier setup is specific to you. I see too many guys out there that they want to emulate their favorite, you know, tier 1 operators, and understand that your plate carrier setup is dictated by your mission. I think we talked about this in a previous video, but your mission as a civilian might be just getting home in, you know, a shit hits the fan situation. Home defense, you're throwing it on because you hear that bump in the night. You don't need to worry about you know, any kind of accessories on the back of you. You don't need to worry about you know, communication and things like that. So don't put too much into it. Don't set your plate carrier up in a way that's not going to be beneficial to you. Everything you do should put you in a position of advantage. And yeah, the last thing we want to do is build out a plate carrier because we're, you know, emulating that really cool guy. But at the same time, it doesn't serve a purpose.
Right, exactly. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go down range, and we're going to move through some shooting positions that you can do. Whenever you get your plate carrier on, you kind of want to test things and see how things are fitting. And you can run through these positions and you'll quickly find out what's working and what's not. So let's head down range and get it done. So the main positions we're talking about shooting, just like what you were saying, like standing, kneeling, prone, like what do people need to know that could help them with their plate carrier fitment when they're out on the range?
You don't need to be thinking about how do I set my plate carrier up to achieve X, Y, and Z, as though it's any different than if we weren't wearing a plate carrier.
Yeah.
I want my plate carrier to just be like an extension of me. It's there to afford me an extra level of security and safety.
Yeah.
So everything that I do without a plate carrier on should be the same as with my plate carrier on.
Right. But it does change things. Like
it does
just wearing
change
a
things,
plate
but
carrier changes
the
things.
setup
Yeah.
is going to dictate how dramatic those changes are. So like, what do you mean by that? Like, I'm glad you asked.
Yeah.
Some of those things for me are how wide my shoulder straps are. So you can look at the cheaper end of the spectrum as far as plate carriers go, and there's some pretty big, chonky shoulder straps, whatever you want to call them. And that acts as a barrier, a buffer, or a prohibitor for me mounting the carbine where I typically like to mount my carbine. So I guess a good example of that would be, I've got my carbine downrange clear, cool, awesome. If I bring my carbine up and I'm seating my carbine against me, right, is my shoulder strap preventing a barrier from me doing that?
Yep.
So right here, not so much.
Yeah,
right?
You can see right here where
I've got a pretty thin profile strap, and I'm getting the carbine physically against my person, and the strap isn't creating some kind of blockage. And if it was, what happens is now that carbine's farther out in front of us. So that starts to play into our length of pull and things like that, and we don't want it to. So kind of back in the day, the train of thought was when I throw my plate carrier on, I'm gonna bump the stock position of my buttstock in one position to compensate for how big these shoulder straps are. That's why I like a little bit more minimalist, a little bit more like high speed, low drag, I guess you could call it, plate carrier setup, like the Faro that I'm running, or like Spiritus, or some of the other ones that you brought out. This keeps me nice and streamlined. So everything that I'm doing without a plate carrier, pretty similar to me just throwing my plate carrier on. So yeah, just some considerations when I'm standing in standing position, right? I should be able to control and shoot this carbine effectively, comfortably with the plate carrier on. If I can't, I need to start making some changes. I'd prefer to start making the changes on the carrier versus on the weapon system, right? So standing. Right, I'm just as effective with the plate carrier on standing as I am without it on.
Yeah, and let me interject here and ask a question. So whenever you're doing this and you're talking about your high ready, low ready positions, and I see a lot of people running a lot of stuff over here on the side, like their sides are just...
Solid comment. I like to run the sides of my carrier really slick. A couple things that I will run that I'm not today, so side armor. If you're wearing armor in general, I'm a big proponent of side armor. Side plates are pretty thin profile. There's not a lot that's going to cause them to balloon out. Obviously the cost of the plate, the quality of the plate is going to dictate the size of the plate, but a more premium plate is going to be a little bit thinner. Everything should be easy to access within my workspace. And the reason that I keep my sides clear is because if I need to be able to draw my secondary or access any of my reloads, I want a clear path to do that, and I don't want it to get hung up on GP pouches and things like that. Again, this is mission specific, so dudes that are overseas that actually need that stuff, cool, awesome, like there's a purpose for it. But for me, in the civilian context, I have no need for it, right? I'm not trying to carry extra stuff. Ounces equal pounds, pounds equal pain. So again, like I'm gonna do this as minimally as possible. Yeah,
for sure. So maybe let's run through run through 3 positions in a row that the average person can do in their plate carriers.
So talking a little bit more about standing, some of the positions that David was talking about, so our high ready, being able to present from high ready and mount the carbine effectively. Right, running from a compressed low ready. And then again, just that typical traditional standing. So you can see why not having a bunch of stuff on the side of my carrier helps me really tuck that carbine back in. Not having these big chunky shoulder straps helps me get that carbine up and mounted pretty quickly. I'm looking for that repeatable, that consistent placement of my buttstock every single time. So from here, I guess other typical shooting positions that people want to see. So the kneeling position, again, absolutely nothing between me kneeling right now than kneeling without a plate carrier. Right? You can do more of a supported kneeling if you wanted to. right? And then from here, you could also go prone. One big thing to consider while I'm down here in the prone position is how little I have on the front of my plate carrier. I don't run a lot of stuff, extra magazines and whatnot on the front of my carrier, because I don't want to prevent myself from being able to get as low as possible to the ground if I'm afforded minimal cover or concealment. So I run the front of my carrier extremely slick for that reason.
Yeah.
Again, if I have minimal cover or concealment, I can get myself as close to the ground as possible. Dudes running around with a second set of rifle mags, pistol mags.
Medical kit on top of that.
Medical, exactly.
Yep.
You're doing yourself a disservice.
Yep.
Also don't have a big dangler down here. I don't have anything on the front of my belt line. Again, all that serves to do is get me as close to the ground as possible with minimal cover, but it's also really comfortable. I've got nothing pushing against me. If you're in that position for an extended period of time, the last thing I want is to experience a lot of discomfort.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
So all that stuff being considered, I think that's a solid point for anybody that's putting on a plate carrier for the first time, that's trying to test their gear, that's trying to fit their gear. This is so easy to go to the range. You don't even have to fire the rounds. You can get in your home, you know, hold air guns, grab a stick from the backyard, you know, hit those shooting positions, see how it feels. Do what Sean suggested, do some jumping jacks, run up and down your driveway. Just make sure things are fitting tight and you have access to everything, and you're also not overloading yourself.
Yeah. Again, ounces equal pounds, pounds equal pain. I can only say that so many times, but at the same time, I can't say it enough. I don't want to carry extra stuff just because I want to look cool, just because someone else that has a different mission than me sees that stuff as a necessity. That's great, that's cool for them. They know what it's about. If you don't, then it's probably not a necessity for you.
Yeah.
And if you think it is, then go out and ask a question. I see you got a tourniquet on your carrier.
Yep.
I always rock a tourniquet on mine. If you can see, like again, I don't have a dangler.
Yep.
I just run this nice and tucked in. And again, it doesn't balloon out or stick out farther than the front of my carrier.
Like I said, this is all just tips. I mean, this is a rabbit hole that we could literally go down and down and down. But I think that's a good starting point, that if you're trying to get your plate carrier setup going, this is a great starting point to just go out and something to do yourself. So we're super excited to wrap this series. This next video that we're gonna do, we're gonna get out here, we're gonna shoot some of these plates and really put these things really through the ringer. And it's gonna be a lot of fun. So make sure you guys like and subscribe. We're also giving away some body armor. We're gonna be giving away sets of plates from every company that sent us plates to shoot. We're giving away a free set to you guys for liking and subscribing. You need to like and subscribe. You need to comment on all 5 videos in this series to be entered. You will not win if you only comment on 4 of them. So please go comment on all 5, and we'll see you guys next time.